Sometimes when you really think about it, there's actually an easier solution to your problem hidden right underneath your nose. That's the case with Nick here in this hot seat call from the online trainer mentorship. Nick is a running coach, but he specializes in marathons. And what we actually do is we work to put a container around that instead of just saying, I'm a marathon coach who helps you with the marathon, because then people, if they hire him, only hire him for the marathon and then go away. Whereas the reality of it is the majority of the business in running is actually in the 101 level market. And then he can still do marathon prep, but if he puts a container around it as a specific program for specific marathons, he has a big advantage. So we work on that in this, and I think that you will love it. From the entire strategy of like how he's going to implement this plan to what he's now going to do with the social media top of the funnel type content. I won't ruin any more of it for you. I've already said too much. This conversation with Nick is killer. Hope that you enjoy it. I'll be back afterwards to recommend another episode. All right, Nick, same thing, man. Talk about who you are, please, and who you help, and then what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So I'm a run coach and personal trainer. I work with busy dads preparing for their next marathon without sacrificing, kind of similar thing here, without sacrificing family time or discovering or rediscovering any of those aches and pains that always come with marathon training. That's my avatar, but I have a lot. I'd say that the dads is what I really like. That's what I'm
Okay.
trying to take more towards. And I work with probably more moms than anything. And then there's a bunch of just like I'm running a marathon and I want you to be my coach. So starting to try to like narrow that down a little bit further and sort of chipping away at that more and more.
Is a marathon usually a one-off thing? Do people sign up for like a period of time and they do the marathon and then they're gone, or do they stick with you afterwards? They're just so
Yeah,
broken that they need help afterwards.
that's I guess one of my issues with renewals is that it's whether it's the marathon or it's a half marathon or it's learning to run, it's like there's this race or sort of goal that we're working towards, and then you get the 26.2 miles and you're like, awesome, thanks, bye.
Yeah.
Uh, and then it's really hard sometimes to like, okay, but we're working on other things and we're working on building your fitness. We've been doing that and reestablishing or reworking your relationship with nutrition and your
Mhm.
family. You lost weight, you got stronger, et cetera, et cetera. We don't want to lose any of that.
Right.
But the main thing was that marathon. And then it's like, yeah, but I probably won't do it for another year or two. So I'll give you a call. It's like, yeah, okay, cool.
Are there specific marathons that you find that most of your people are preparing for? I know there's tons of marathons all throughout the year, but
Yeah, I mean the world majors for sure. So I live in Chicago, so I get a fair amount of Chicago runners. New York is the other one. And then yeah, I mean outside of that, it's just random all over the country throughout the year.
cool.
A couple Berlin here and there, but
So mainly it's Chicago, and then what was the other one? World Majors?
yeah, Chicago and New York are two of the world major marathons.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So those are
When's the Chicago one?
Chicago is beginning-ish of October. So it was October 8th or 9th this
Beginning October. That's fine. Okay. How long does somebody normally need to prepare for that? Like if you were to take a group, how much in advance would you want them?
Um, Ideally, it's great when I get somebody for like 6 months because we can get a strong base and then we get maybe about a 18, give or take a couple weeks of like marathon training.
Cool. Okay. So 180 days or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think the marathon training is great because the people who are in it are all in it. I think that they're out of their goddamn minds. But I think that the people who are in it are all in it. But as an ongoing thing, like it's hard because with these types of things, to me, with a marathon, with anything that I would kind of put in that same bucket, it's like once somebody's ready to do it, they're ready to do it, or they're not ready. Like there's no kind of in between, and you can't really affect that much. You kind of just need to be there, top of mind, as the obvious choice for when they're ready to take action. But there's not a lot in between.
Mhm.
And I think that the marathon is great, but I think the marathon thing is almost like it's like a one-off package that you run out and you do it for specific marathons. Now, this could grow into a bunch of different marathons, but Chicago was one. If there's one or two other ones where you already have a bunch of people that you've prepared for it, then that could work well. But like, 180 to 26.2. Like, hey, who's joining me for the 180 to 26.2 Chicago 2024 group?
Yeah.
And you could promote yourself and say, I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but if you could promote yourself and say something like, I'm the strength coach who's helped more people successfully complete the Chicago Marathon than anybody else. I mean, probably nobody else is making any claims. So there's no way to verify or not verify. You got to have something to back it up. Even if you don't make a claim like that, you can say, I've helped whatever, 15 men and women successfully complete the Chicago Marathon. I helped whatever, that many last year. And then that number will add up and add up and add up until you become literally the prep person for the Chicago Marathon.
Yeah.
And then you could start working with the Chicago Marathon as well, of course. And then you can start working with programs like a good friend of mine runs the app None to Run. You ever seen that one?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I go for beers with them every so often. And he's always looking for extra revenue streams. They've got like I don't even know how many, 40, 50,000 paying users or something like that. I could be wrong. I don't remember what the number was, but they're always looking for additional revenue streams because they're on like a $4, app store model where they give away 70% of their revenue or whatever insane fee that the app store charges. Well, if they can put a message or a push notification to all their users or all their users who live in Chicago and say, hey, if you're looking to prep for the Chicago Marathon, we got a guy. He helped 30 people prepare for it. Like if you can add that specificity and that scarcity, that container around what you do, you can easily pick it up and replicate it for different marathons if you have that specialization. But then it just adds year after year after year after year, where you just become so obviously the go-to for, I don't even know what goes into marathon prep, physical, split training, whatever. A lot.
Yeah.
And then for everybody else, I mean, the biggest market is always going to be 101 level. Like my first year at university, there was 1,500 people in 101 level physiology. You want to know how many people were in my level 404 fourth year advanced muscle physiology class? 15, I think 12 finished. Like, what business would you rather run? So the None to Run, the 0 to 5K, the run your first fun run type market is always going to be a better market ongoing. But then the one-off, like very strategic throughout the year launch promotions that you do with Chicago, and you can reach out to all of the different, I mean, there's a lot of them, the different running apps, the different running websites, the different trail running, trail guide, trail running maps, apps, all of those types of things. You know them better than I do. But a lot of those types of businesses, particularly the most sophisticated ones, have a lot of data sophistication where you could reach out to them with a pretty compelling pitch and say, I'm taking, here's who I am. I've run these marathons. I've done Ironmans, whatever. I've also helped X amount of people prepare for a marathon, particularly this marathon. I know the track. I know the path. I know the weather conditions. specifically for this marathon, I'm taking in a group. I'll give you 50% of the fee that anybody that you send me pays to be a part of the group. And you know that if you're whatever, if Chicago's happening December 7th, let's say, you just track 180 days back and you start your promo and your outreach 45 days before that. Because your cutoff time is 180, right? Like you need that urgency where the group is starting today. And everybody, you prepare a short little guide, how to prepare for the Chicago Marathon. Everybody sends their traffic to you, to your email list to get the guide. You try to upgrade them into coaching. And even if they don't sign up, you're absorbing that traffic and becoming the go-to guide for that marathon, and you're sending them tips and stuff. And then you can do last chance as that date approaches. I love it.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And then, Jim, have you ever done anything like that? Nice to see you too, Jim. How you doing, man? You ever done anything like that? Jim, for anybody who doesn't know, is like, I don't know. I'll say stuff that you would be too humble to say, but Jim's one of the top sort of sports performance coaches in the country. You ever done any types of programs like these, preparing for these types of events?
Not so much. Can you hear me pretty good?
Yeah, we got you.
Not so much a marathon, but like NFL combine training is the same way. It's the same exact thing. You just have to connect with the right people who then refer you to people, and you post about things and get people talking about them, or getting ready for, I guess, yeah, like kids getting ready for a combine or a summer camp, like trying to get scholarships. So getting ready for like a football camp or something. It's a little different in person. At least I have experienced that, because it's a lot of word of mouth. So it's more local, like people telling their, one parent says something to another parent. But I would think it would be the same exact thing for you, Nick. Like if I'm running a marathon and I'm working with you and my friend is running with me, I'd be like, hey, you should talk to Nick. So probably get referrals for the local thing, like John was saying.
Yeah, or you're running with your buddy, and all of a sudden 2 weeks later you're running past your buddy, and your buddy saying, how the hell are you doing what you're doing? Yeah, I mean, the biggest difference to me, Jim, is that like I didn't know it to the extent that you did, but I trained youth athletes and got guys ready for the NHL combine and stuff. And I mean, it was pretty rare that these kids had money, whereas I think, Nick, like you're gonna be basically taking advantage of all of the good parts, and with people largely who have money, which I would think that a lot of the NFL combine kids, you'd be pretty hard pressed to charge them any kind of a premium.
Yeah. Got to charge them something.
Got to charge them something. Take a percentage of their future contracts. That's what you need to do.
Some people do that.
It's not stupid.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Nick? Could definitely help you develop this, outside of this call a little bit more. But anything to add? Any more thoughts on your end?
Yeah, I mean, that's like I'm spinning with ideas right now, but I guess then the whole avatar thing. So now it's like, is the avatar just people running Chicago or something like that? Like now it's almost like,
I mean, I don't even think your platform, like I don't think that your public Instagram, like any kind of social media is top of the funnel, right? It's 101 level.
mm-hmm.
It's pure 101 level physiology class, which is why, I mean, overwhelmingly, if you've been on a bunch of these calls, but for other people maybe who haven't been on as many of these calls, the calls overwhelmingly are, hey, my content, my social media content isn't getting me the types of leads or the types of high quality leads that I want. It's because social media is really superficial knowledge. It has to be. And as a result, there's no competitive advantage, because any dolt can say something that hits on social media. Entertaining around a subject doesn't require any experience on that subject. It requires you to read a goddamn Wikipedia article. Consumers know this. So you can be entertained by somebody and you can follow somebody. It doesn't mean that you trust them as any sort of an expert. which is why in the online trainer mentorship, and this is why we keep trying to harp on, yes, content's important because it's almost like a business card and it can absolutely lead to business. But in almost every case, like the conversation with Lenka, in almost every case, there's other ways that you can go that are so much more direct and pinpointed, where looking at social media as this is what I have to do to get clients is such a gloriously inefficient way to do it. I would look at your social media and saying, you're a champion for the running community. What are all of the deeper reasons why people run, men run, women run? How does it help them? How does it help them overcome stuff in their everyday? How does it help them have more mental fortitude? How does it help them push through? Be a champion for that. That's the top level funnel content. Because that shows a real level of depth that, anybody can look up a Runner's World article, whatever, and talk about the 3 best stretches before you go for your run. So I would view a platform like that not necessarily as a Chicago Marathon coach. I think the Chicago Marathon stuff is stuff you do behind the scenes.
Okay.
I have a friend who's a tutor, runs a big tutoring company, like math, like kids tutor, like math tutor, science tutor stuff. And tutoring is a very fascinating business model to me because it's actually very similar to personal training in a lot of ways, where it's largely pay by hour. There are some tutors who are very, very good and very, very serious about what they do. Most tutors are not. Most tutors kind of do it moonlighting. There's a lot of, there's no real like designation for it that anybody pays any attention to. And so I like looking at other industries that have a lot of similarities like that to personal training or to fitness, because I think that success leaves clues in there in ways that we don't see in our kind of insular bubble. And so this guy's done really well. And he's in his 50s. His tutoring's his career. He runs a tutoring company. He's not like a teacher who does this on the side. And he's the tutor for the mayor of Toronto's niece. And just recently, he got awarded a massive government contract for tutoring inner city youth. Well, how does that come about? So we were at dinner with him. How does that come about? You can't just call up the government and be like, "Hi, Mrs. Government. I'm a tutor, and I think that your inner city youth need a tutoring program, and I'd like to provide that service." And they'd say, "Yes, that sounds wonderful. Here's how it comes about." He buys tickets to expensive charity dinners. His entire marketing, it's Sapphire Studies. You could look up his stuff, like his social media is a joke. His entire marketing is he puts all of his budget towards buying what's called plates at charity dinners, fundraising dinners, galas, whatever. And so in this case, he spent $2,500 for a charity fundraising dinner. And everybody there are rich people in Toronto that have kids. Mm-hmm. He's the only tutor. He's the only person who runs a tutoring company. And so at one of these, he met the mayor of Toronto. And the mayor of Toronto, this $2,500 one, right? And the mayor of Toronto just happened to be looking, or his niece, or I guess his sister, brother, whoever, was looking for a tutor. And they gave him the call. And then they asked him to bid on this contract that he had no idea they were putting together this program. But they asked him to bid on it. That's how this stuff happens. It's not because he went on Instagram and started talking about the 3 best things you never knew about helping a kid with his math homework. That's why we keep saying, like, work backwards, right? And test. So yeah, I think your Instagram account is fine, it's good, but less about how to run it, more about the deeper why of why it matters, become a champion for that community.
Mm.
And then, look at social media is a lagging indicator of stuff you do in the real world. Most people view it as a leading indicator. It's not. Unless you're a world-class entertainer. But at that point, it's very much an outlier game where there's absolutely some people that have been able to build massive businesses by first building a social media platform. There's not a lot of them. And there's a lot of people who have tried. And that's because it's an outlier game, the same as trying to become famous in Hollywood is. And so, not to say it's not possible, but there's absolutely a much more straightforward way. I'm excited for this though. I like the Chicago Marathon because it's so repeatable.
Yeah.
Right? You could do the Honolulu one, you could do the New York one. I mean, as opposed to Jim, he's like got one combine every single year, and he's got to do everything there. It's like, yeah, you could just hit different marathons every year, and you already have your different platforms that already have assembled all of these people.
Mm-hmm.
That and they're all looking for extra revenue because they're all basically low end, either page view advertising type platforms or low end membership or app type subscription services. So if you can give them a way to generate a lot more money for no extra work, you'll get told no, but I think it'd be a pretty easy yes for some of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Thank you for this. Hey, John, back again. That was such a cool conversation. Hope that you enjoyed it. And also really neat that I was able to pull in Jim there. Jim Cobasso is really one of the top sports performance coaches in the world. Honored to have him as a student in the online trainer mentorship as well. It just shows you that no matter how accomplished you are, you can always be a student in another aspect of the game. And that was just really, really neat how we were able to kind of put a container around what he did, build a marketing plan, get those ideas spinning, and then figure out what we're going to do with the content itself. If you're interested in talking more about the online trainer mentorship, if you're a trainer, nutrition coach, gym owner, influencer who's already doing a minimum of $1,000 online and you want to scale up, please go to Instagram, send me a DM that just says mentor. We'll have a conversation about it, see if it's right for you. Now, if you're listening for another episode, if you're looking for another episode to listen to, I'm going to recommend you check out episode 115. This episode is called $500,000 a year, 1,400 followers. Meet Melissa. This was a particularly cool episode because this is not actually an interview on our podcast. One of our students from the online trainer mentorship got interviewed for another podcast, and the people who hosted it basically said, yo, you got to listen to this. In this, Melissa goes deep into not just her marketing and how she gets clients, but what she actually offers her clients, down to the support and the programming and how it's all structured. It's just her and her husband. She does $500,000 a year, like $450,000 in profit, which is nuts. And so that's episode 115. Hope that you love it. Hope that you're doing good. We'll talk again soon.